If you stepped outside earlier today and thought the sky looked unusually calm, you weren't alone. But what happened next is exactly why meteorologists always warn that severe weather can develop with very little notice. Within hours, that quiet atmosphere transformed into a dangerous storm environment across central Indiana as the first round of severe thunderstorms rapidly intensified. Tornado warnings began appearing on weather radar, emergency alerts sounded across multiple counties, and the National Weather Service soon confirmed that a tornado had touched down in southeastern Putnam County. What started as an ordinary day quickly became a race against time as powerful thunderstorms marched eastward, threatening millions of people with damaging winds, torrential rainfall, large hail, and the possibility of additional tornadoes. And according to forecasters, this may only be the beginning of a much larger severe weather event still unfolding across the region. The first wave of storms developed with incredible efficiency as warm, moisture-rich air surged northward into Indiana while a powerful disturbance approached from the west. Meteorologists had been watching this setup for hours because the atmosphere was becoming increasingly unstable. As temperatures climbed and humidity continued rising, the ingredients necessary for severe thunderstorms began coming together. Once storms formed, they wasted no time becoming organized. Instead of remaining ordinary thunderstorms, several cells quickly strengthened into rotating storms capable of producing tornadoes, destructive straight-line winds, and intense lightning. Radar imagery showed storms rapidly expanding as they pushed across west-central Indiana, prompting forecasters to issue urgent warnings for communities directly in their path. The most significant development came when the National Weather Service confirmed that a tornado touched down in southeastern Putnam County. Even though the tornado itself may have been relatively brief, its confirmation immediately changed the tone of the event. A confirmed tornado means the atmosphere is no longer simply capable of producing rotation, it has already done so. That raises concern that additional storms developing in the same environment may also become tornadic. Once meteorologists confirm one tornado within an active storm system, they begin watching surrounding storms even more closely because the larger atmospheric pattern often remains favorable for additional tornado development. As the storms continued moving east, residents across central Indiana faced multiple hazards at the same time. Powerful wind gusts became one of the primary threats, with some thunderstorms capable of producing winds strong enough to snap tree limbs, topple power lines, and leave thousands without electricity. Unlike tornadoes, which usually affect relatively narrow paths, straight-line winds can produce widespread damage across entire counties. Trees weakened by saturated soil become much easier to uproot, especially when repeated bursts of severe wind move through during successive thunderstorms. That combination significantly increases the risk of road closures, blocked highways, and extended power outages. Heavy rainfall also became a growing concern, as storms repeatedly moved across many of the same locations. These weren't fast-moving showers that would quickly pass by. Several thunderstorms slowed enough to dump large amounts of rain in a short period, creating localized flash flooding concerns. Urban areas became especially vulnerable because storm drains can only handle so much water before streets begin flooding. Low-lying intersections, underpasses, and smaller creeks were all closely monitored as rainfall rates increased throughout the afternoon and evening. Large hail remained another serious hazard throughout the event. Inside these powerful thunderstorms, strong updrafts carried water droplets thousands of feet into extremely cold air, where they froze into hailstones. Those hailstones continued growing as they cycled through the storm before eventually falling back to the ground. In the strongest storms, hail can become large enough to shatter vehicle windshields, damage roofs, destroy crops, and cause significant property damage within only a few minutes. While wind and tornadoes often receive the most attention, hail frequently becomes one of the costliest forms of severe weather because of the widespread damage it causes. Meteorologists were also closely monitoring the structure of the storms on radar because several displayed characteristics associated with supercells. Supercells are among the most dangerous thunderstorm types because they contain rotating updrafts known as mesocyclones. That rotation allows storms to remain organized much longer than ordinary thunderstorms, while increasing their ability to produce tornadoes, giant hail, and destructive winds simultaneously. Even if a supercell never produces another tornado, its rotating structure alone makes it significantly more dangerous than a typical thunderstorm. One reason today's outbreak developed so quickly was the presence of strong wind shear throughout the atmosphere. Wind shear refers to changes in wind speed and direction with height. Near the surface, warm and humid air continued flowing northward, while several thousand feet above the ground, much stronger winds raced across the Midwest. That difference in wind speed and direction caused thunderstorms to begin rotating shortly after they formed. When strong instability combines with powerful wind shear, forecasters know the atmosphere has entered an environment capable of producing significant severe weather. It's one of the classic ingredients meteorologists look for whenever tornado potential begins increasing. Unfortunately, today's storms may not be the end of the story, as forecast models continue indicating that the overall weather pattern remains highly active, with additional disturbances expected to move through the Midwest over the coming days. That means the atmosphere may have opportunities to reload itself, allowing fresh thunderstorms to develop once again. Even after today's storms move out, leftover boundaries, abundant moisture, and another approaching upper-level system could create favorable conditions for another round of severe weather. Forecasters continue emphasizing that residents should remain weather-aware because recovery time between storm systems may be very limited. But as significant as today's confirmed tornado is, meteorologists are becoming increasingly concerned about what happens after this first wave moves through. Severe weather outbreaks often unfold in multiple chapters rather than a single event, and the atmosphere over the Midwest still contains plenty of energy waiting to be released. Today's storms have already demonstrated that the ingredients are in place, and forecasters say the environment may remain capable of producing additional severe thunderstorms well into the evening and possibly beyond. That means the danger doesn't necessarily end when the first line of storms passes. In many cases, the atmosphere reloads itself, allowing new storms to develop along leftover boundaries created by earlier thunderstorms. These boundaries can act like invisible highways in the atmosphere, providing the lift needed for another round of explosive storm development. One of the reasons today's forecast has captured so much attention is because the atmosphere has become remarkably efficient at producing rotating thunderstorms. Warm, moisture-rich air continues streaming northward from the Gulf, while powerful winds several thousand feet above the ground race across the Midwest. That difference in wind speed and direction with height creates an environment where thunderstorms don't simply grow, they begin to rotate. Once rotation develops inside a storm, the potential for tornadoes, giant hail, and destructive straight-line winds increases dramatically. This is why meteorologists spend so much time analyzing wind profiles before severe weather outbreaks. They know that even small changes in atmospheric conditions can determine whether storms remain ordinary thunderstorms or evolve into dangerous supercells capable of producing significant damage. Another growing concern is the possibility that storms will begin merging together as they continue moving east. Individual supercells often pose the greatest tornado threat early in their life cycle, but once multiple storms begin combining into a larger squall line, the primary hazard frequently shifts toward widespread destructive winds. These long lines of thunderstorms can stretch for hundreds of miles while producing wind gusts strong enough to snap trees, damage homes, tear roofing materials away, and leave entire communities without electricity. Unlike tornadoes, which typically damage relatively narrow areas, a powerful squall line can impact dozens of counties simultaneously, creating a much broader emergency for utility companies and first responders. The flooding threat also continues growing with every passing hour. Rainfall from today's storms has already saturated many areas, and additional thunderstorms moving over the same locations could quickly overwhelm rivers, streams, and drainage systems. Meteorologists are particularly concerned about what they call training storms, where thunderstorms repeatedly move over the same communities, instead of continuing east. Imagine train cars traveling along the same railroad track one after another. That's essentially what happens in the atmosphere. One thunderstorm passes through, followed by another, then another, with each one dumping additional rainfall onto ground that has already become saturated. Under those conditions, flash flooding can develop much faster than many people expect. Nighttime always adds another layer of danger during severe weather events. Once darkness falls, it becomes nearly impossible to visually recognize approaching tornadoes or rapidly rising floodwaters. Trees can fall across roadways without being visible until the last second. Flooded intersections become much harder to identify, and heavy rain can completely hide dangerous conditions from drivers. That's why emergency managers consistently urge people not to rely on what they can see outside. Instead, weather radios, smartphone alerts, and local emergency notifications become critically important after sunset when visual confirmation is no longer possible. Weather experts are also watching neighboring states very closely because today's atmospheric setup isn't limited to Indiana alone. The same weather system responsible for producing severe storms across central Indiana continues extending across a much larger portion of the Midwest. As it moves eastward, communities in Ohio, Kentucky, and portions of the lower Great Lakes could eventually face many of the same hazards. While the exact timing and intensity will vary from one location to another, the overall pattern remains favorable for additional severe thunderstorm development. That means today's confirmed tornado could become only one part of a much broader regional severe weather event affecting millions of people across multiple states. Another factor adding uncertainty to the forecast is how quickly the atmosphere may recover after the first round of storms. Sometimes early thunderstorms consume much of the available instability, limiting later development. But in today's setup, forecast models suggest that enough sunshine and warm, humid air may return behind the first wave to recharge the atmosphere surprisingly quickly. If that happens, a second round of thunderstorms could become just as intense, or even stronger than the first. That's why forecasters continue emphasizing that residents should not assume the threat has ended, simply because skies temporarily begin clearing. Emergency officials are already preparing for the possibility of scattered damage reports arriving throughout the night. Crews may be responding to downed trees, damaged power lines, flooded roadways, and structural damage from severe winds or tornadoes. Utility companies often begin staging repair crews before major storm events because widespread outages can take many hours or even days to restore if severe damage becomes extensive. Every thunderstorm that develops today has the potential to create new problems, especially if multiple rounds of severe weather impact the same communities before recovery efforts can even begin. Meteorologists will also be conducting detailed storm surveys over the coming days to determine exactly how strong the confirmed Putnam County tornado became. Survey teams examine damage patterns, tree fall directions, structural impacts, and other evidence to assign an official Enhanced Fujita or EF rating. That process helps scientists better understand the storm's behavior while improving future warning techniques. Although radar can strongly suggest tornadoes are occurring, damage surveys provide the final confirmation needed to document each event accurately. Perhaps the most important takeaway from today's severe weather outbreak is just how rapidly conditions changed. Earlier in the day, many areas experienced nothing more than warm temperatures and increasing humidity. Within only a few hours, that same atmosphere produced rotating thunderstorms, confirmed tornadoes, damaging winds, and widespread severe weather warnings. It serves as another reminder that severe weather doesn't always provide hours of obvious warning before becoming dangerous. Sometimes the transition from ordinary weather to life-threatening conditions happens far faster than most people expect. As this weather system continues moving across the region, forecasters remain focused on one critical question: has the atmosphere finished producing its most dangerous storms, or is another round still waiting to develop? That answer will become clearer as new radar scans, satellite imagery, and forecast data continue arriving throughout the evening. Until then, weather experts agree on one message above all else: stay alert. Keep multiple ways to receive emergency warnings, and be prepared to act immediately if conditions begin deteriorating again. Because today's confirmed tornado has already shown exactly what this atmosphere is capable of producing, and there is still enough energy remaining to keep everyone watching the skies. Emergency managers across Indiana are reminding residents that severe weather can evolve far more quickly than many people realize. Tornado warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings, and flash flood warnings are issued only when dangerous conditions are already occurring or expected within minutes. Waiting until you hear thunder or see threatening clouds may not leave enough time to reach a safe location. Having multiple ways to receive weather alerts, especially overnight, is one of the most effective ways to stay protected during active weather patterns. As meteorologists continue surveying damage in southeastern Putnam County and analyzing radar data from today's event, they will also be studying why certain storms became tornadic while others remained primarily wind producers. Every severe weather event provides valuable information that helps improve future forecasts. But for now, the priority remains monitoring the next developing storms, updating warnings as needed, and ensuring communities remain prepared should additional dangerous weather develop. Today's confirmed tornado serves as a powerful reminder that severe weather season can change from routine to dangerous in a matter of minutes. The atmosphere over central Indiana has already demonstrated what it's capable of producing, and with additional storms still possible, weather experts are urging everyone across the region to stay informed, monitor official forecasts closely, and be prepared to act immediately if new warnings are issued. For many communities, today's storms may have been the first chapter of a much larger weather story that is still unfolding.